Once in my life, I'm going to remember to put the microphone back down. Too far down there.
Let's give a hand to Tony. That was something special. He had sent me that story, and I had read it and thought it was great, but it's so much better with his delivery. Oh my goodness. I did not read it that way. Really glad he told it, and that I didn't tell it. That was fantastic. Next up is another 10 by 9 newbie. Super glad to have her here. She was raised by Mormons in a radioactive desert. I'm assuming that's Utah. Her teenage rebellion, which came in her mid-20s, led her to a downwardly mobile life of community organizing work with low-wage workers, and now she's mostly trying to write. Please welcome Kate Savage.
Oh, that my forehead could talk. I'm not from here, but I came the closest I've ever been to it 3 years ago. The trick was living out in the open, smack dab in the city's concrete heart for a few months with complete strangers. Each evening, somebody would gather us together, sort of like this. I'm going to ask you please to help me. All right, Occupy Nashville. All right, here we are. For newcomers, we'd like to explain some of our hand signals you're going to see us doing tonight. So please, everyone go like this first. Good. This isn't jazz hands. This is twinkle fingers. You do this if you agree, if you like something, if you feel good tonight. If you just saw that banner made for us by a group of homeless kids saying everybody counts, and you're weeping like it's a Hallmark commercial. If you feel like you're part of something big, one family with all the occupiers in Zuccotti Park on Wall Street, or the 2,000 some odd occupations in 82 countries around the world, or something bigger, something represented by that lush, roundish number 99% whose humble handmaidens we are. And since there's so many of us, we have to win. We have to get money out of politics, or stop corporate personhood, or experience democracy on the personal scale. If it swells your heart, go like this. No, some of you do. This is twinkle fingers down. This is what you do if you disagree with a statement, or dislike something, or sympathize with someone's pain, or say the state legislators have just called you a bunch of public urinators and fornicators and have made it their sole mission to shut you down. If you can't stand that damn chant anymore, if a pigeon just shat on you, if some hippie with an oxymoronic name like Sanity is hollering wildly over everyone who's trying to speak, if you have a sneaking suspicion that half the people here are undercover cops, if someone treats you like you're an undercover cop, if you're developing that hacking cough going through so many occupations we've started to call it Zuccotti lung, and if the last light of the day leaves you standing out in the sleet listening to one more white guy explain that he doesn't see race, and you realize you put yourself on the line with all your family and all your friends to be a representative of this, then you go like this. In Twinklese, this is how we say meh. And this is what we do regardless what is being said. When it's been said too many times already, you can do this if I go over 10 minutes.
Got it.
And with a few more explanations, we could begin our meeting, but this wasn't just any meeting. This was a general assembly. This was heroism. 3 years past this heroism, I am flummoxed trying to talk about it. This is supposed to be... Oh no, the feds are here. This is, yeah, turn that off. This is supposed to be an evening of true stories. Do you want to know what happens to the truth when you're out there on the plaza? Truth drops out of itself. Truth evaporates into rumor. You crack open an egg of a fact and you discover it is hollow inside. We heard a lot of true stories out on the plaza. We heard about prison camps that were being built for us out in the desert, and the radiation poisoning we were getting in our food, and who in the group was a federal agent and what they were doing to torment us now. We heard several conflicting reports of the requirements of Jesus Christ, of our occupation. And then someone would shout for the 10th time that night, "The cops are coming!" So I don't know about the true part anymore, but we did get stories. Once upon a time, I was arrested. It wasn't when it actually mattered. It wasn't on the plaza with the news cameras rolling and the friendly night court judge who threw out the cases and liberated everyone. It was after all that, and on accident, when we were equidistant between a sense of our own invincibility and our utter annihilation by the cold. So we tried to get a building. Late one night, a crew of us went on a blind march led by two people. The first I'll call Amanda, who is a blonde and bright-eyed squirrel of a person. She grew up Orthodox Church of Christ, and now she carries her Bible into the homeless camps and the prisons and works miracles of food and housing and self-respect. And she looks like a Bible camp counselor and is more radical and brave than anyone. Oh, we got some folks know this person. And more radical and brave than anyone except maybe Hank, our second leader, who is a gutter punk teenage anarchist who had devoured all of Marx years ago and moved way past him, and who covered his face with a bandana and took every risk and said things like, "God doesn't exist, and if he doesn't, screw him," except he used a different word than screw. In my brain, Amanda and Hank are Occupy Nashville's patron saints. This devilish angel and angelic devil who love and trust each other across the divorce of heaven and hell. And I would follow both of them into either, but not without some ruefulness. That night I followed them into a huge state-owned brick building that had been left to rot for 20 years. We brought in brooms and mops and started clearing out a shelter from the cold. I was just there to see what was happening and then get clean out, but then there was running and shouting, and turns out a press release about what we were doing had already gone out to all the major news sources, and the one entrance to the place was filled with the fuzz. Inside we were all stage whispering to each other all the reasons we could not get arrested right now. I climbed out a window, but only into a closed courtyard, and then I scurried up the roof with the cops announcing by loudspeaker that they were sending in the dogs. And by the time I made it to the back parking lot, it was already surrounded by cops. When you're lying on the asphalt under orders not to move an inch, or when you're handcuffed in the back of a cruiser, there is only one thing left to do. You make friends with the woman stuffed in there with you, and together you rate the police officers out the window on how hot they are. Not because it's the right thing to do, but because it's something different from what you're supposed to be doing, which is weeping and bewailing your sins. In Occupy Nashville, we wanted to change politics, and we wanted to make history, and we wound up with private relationships and personal stories like this one. After so many nights on the very solid concrete with steel and cement buildings towering over us, we were left with nothing to build with but stories. Frail, little, stupid personal stories. And laughing in the back of a cop car with a new good friend and an attractiveness rating of the Nashville Police Department was when I got Occupy Nashville. I got that what we were all doing was learning the creative misuse of our city. This cement is not supposed to be slept on. It's not a hostel, It's not a kitchen, it's not a library, it's not a fighting rink or a comedy club or your therapist's couch. These steps aren't some people's acropolis. This city isn't built for you. These people who have nothing but a tarp, they're not supposed to be your teachers, and they aren't meant to be your friends. Legislative Plaza isn't yours, legislation isn't yours. These decisions aren't made by you. This city is not your home. Occupy Nashville, then, was the reverse of that teenage rebellion, but with that same wild energy. To be with this rough and raw-smelling crew of humans and say, well, we're family. Or to be in this city at its most raw and its meanest and say, hey, we're home. Thanks.